If I ask you to picture the suburbs, you immediately have an image locked and loaded in your brain.
Oh, yeah, instantly.
You're likely seeing the curved street, the manicured lawn, maybe a sprinkler thwacking away on a Saturday morning.
Yeah.
It feels organic.
It feels timeless.
Yeah.
Like it has always been there, just waiting for us to pull into the driveway.
Exactly. Like, it's just the natural habitat of the American family. Like trees growing in a forest, suburbs just sort of happen.
Mm-hmm. The default setting.
But here is the thing that really, really blew my mind when we started digging into this stack of research for today. That image,
Yeah.
it isn't organic at all. It didn't evolve from centuries of city planning or anything like that. It was manufactured.
You don't mean that metaphorically.
No, I mean it was stamped out, bolted together, and rolled off a line exactly like a toaster or a Ford Model T.
We are talking about the industrialization of the American lifestyle.
Yeah.
The moment we stopped building communities and started, assembling them.
We're talking about Levittown. And to understand Levittown, you have to completely stop thinking about architecture and start thinking about logistics.
Right. It's a process story.
It is. We aren't looking at a neighborhood today. We are looking at a machine that printed 17,000 houses in a couple of years and housed 84,000 people basically overnight.
Which, just for context, that's the population of a decent-sized city. Like, imagine a city the size of, I don't know, Scranton, Pennsylvania, just appearing out of a potato field in Long Island.
A potato field. That's literally what it was.
It's a scale of operation that was previously completely unimaginable in the housing market.
Precisely. So today, that's our mission. We're going to look under the hood of that machine. We're going to dive into the mechanics of that miracle, how you essentially build a house in a single day. And we are also going to look at the shadow that machine cast.
A very long shadow.
Because this perfect machine had a filter, and it was designed from the ground up to keep a lot of people out.
It's a story of incredible innovation, for sure, but it's also a story of calculated exclusion. It's the story of how the modern American middle class was built.
And who was left outside the gate.
Yeah.
So let's get the timeline straight. Let's set the scene. It's 1946, 1947. The war is over. The confetti has been swept up. You have millions of GIs coming home. What is the situation on the ground? What do they find?
Desperation. I think that is the only word for it.
Yeah.
You have to understand, during the Great Depression and then the war years, home building had basically ground to a halt.
For almost 20 years.
Right. There was zero new inventory. So you have millions of men returning, getting married immediately. This is the very beginning of the baby boom, and they have absolutely nowhere to go.
I was reading these accounts of veterans living in, it's unbelievable, retrofitted trolley cars.
Chicken coops.
Chicken coops. And huge numbers of them just doubled or tripled up with their in-laws in these tiny, cramped city apartments.
Right. So if you were a young family in 1947, you weren't browsing Zillow for a nice 3-bedroom ranch. You were trapped. You were in a tenement, maybe sharing a bathroom down the hall with another family with a baby crying in the corner.
It's hard to imagine that level of pent-up demand.
The psychological need was for space. Not just a roof, but independence. A patch of grass that was yours. A door you could close.
Enter Abraham Levitt and his sons, William and Alfred. Levitt and Sons. Now, these guys weren't just philanthropists trying to help out the vets.
Not even close. They were business sharks who saw the single biggest market gap in American history.
William Levitt is the real driver here, right?
Oh, absolutely. William is the visionary, the showman, the engine. He looks at the housing industry at the time, and he sees it as archaic. Just, completely backwards.
Stuck in the 19th century.
Totally. He famously said, "We are the General Motors of the housing industry." And that quote tells you everything.
He wasn't building homes. He was building a product.
Exactly. He realized that if you wanted to meet this insane demand, you couldn't rely on craftsmanship. You had to get rid of it. You had to rely on industrial efficiency.
This is the part that just fascinates me, the process. Because before Levitt, building a house was a custom job.
It was artisanal.
Right. You had a general contractor. He hires a carpenter. The carpenter frames a wall, then measures a window, then cuts the sill. It's slow. It takes skill. It's expensive.
Levitt fired the artisan. He didn't want carpenters. He wanted assemblers. He looked at Henry Ford's assembly line, and he immediately understood the problem with applying it to housing.
You can't put a house on a conveyor belt.
It's too heavy. You can't move the house past the worker.
So he inverted it. The house stays still, and the workers move.
The reverse assembly line. It's so simple, but it changed everything.
I looked into this 27 steps figure that gets thrown around, and it sounds like a random number until you see the breakdown. They broke the entire complex process of building a home into 27 distinct, repeatable steps.
And they had distinct crews for every single one.
It's wild.
Think about the logistics of that. You don't have a crew of 5 guys building a whole house from start to finish. You have a crew of men whose only job all day, every day, is to pour the concrete slab.
That's it.
They show up, they pour it, they smooth it, they move 60 feet to the next lot and do it again.
Right.
They never touch a hammer. They never see a window.
Then the next crew comes in, the framing crew. But even that was broken down. You'd have one guy whose entire job is to bolt the pre-assembled wall panel to the floor. Then he moves. Then the next guy comes and bolts the roof truss.
It's the de-skilling of labor, which, sounds negative, but from an efficiency standpoint, it's absolute genius.
Of course.
You aren't paying for 36 master carpenters who know how to build a staircase and hang a door and do crown molding. You're paying for 36 guys to do one repetitive motion perfectly and quickly.
They trained them for one task. I read one guy was called the floor joist man. That's all he did.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you could train someone to do that in an hour. So you have this constant moving stream of specialized workers.
It's like a human conveyor belt. If you stood in one spot on the street, you wouldn't see a house being built in the traditional sense. You'd see a parade of workers moving past you, each adding one single layer to the structure.
A swarm of activity.
And the materials. Okay, this part is just as revolutionary. The logistics get wild here.
This is Alfred Levitt's domain. He was the quieter brother, the logistics guy.
Right. So Levitt owned the supply chain, vertically integrated. He bought forests in Oregon for the timber. He had his own lumber mills. He made his own nails in his own nail factory.
Which is already a huge cost savings. But the delivery system was the key.
It wasn't just a big pile of wood in the middle of the construction site.
No. They didn't dump all the lumber in a central yard and have workers fetch. That's wasted time, wasted motion.
Right, I read about the drops. They had it calculated down to the inch. At precise intervals, trucks would drive down the unpaved streets and drop a prepackaged bundle of materials at each lot.
A kit, basically.
And that bundle contained exactly what was needed for that specific house. Not one extra nail, not one extra board. No waste.
It's just-in-time delivery before that was even a buzzword. The framers arrive, and the pre-cut wood is sitting there right where they need it. The roofers arrive, the shingles are on the ground.
So there's no downtime, no walking back to the truck, no measuring and cutting on site.
0. Every second was optimized.
And because of all of this, the reverse assembly line, the specialized crews, the pre-cut materials, they achieved this almost mythical speed.
The one-day house.
The one-day house. Now, obviously, concrete has to dry, paint has to dry, so you can't literally start from mud and finish in 24 hours comfortably. But in terms of the actual construction, the man-hours...
When the schedule was clicking, when everything was flowing perfectly, they were finishing 40 houses a day.
40 a day.
Do the math on that. That's a house completed every 12 minutes of the working day.
Every 12 minutes, a family's home. That is absolutely staggering. I can't even, make a sandwich in 12 minutes.
There's this incredible stop-motion photography from 1953 from the Pennsylvania development that captures this. You see the site. It's just mud in the morning.
I've seen that footage. It's mesmerizing.
Isn't it? The trucks swarm in like ants. The frames go up in a blink. The roof goes on. By the time the sun starts to set, there is a recognizable, livable house standing there. It looks like magic.
It's the closest thing to magic that industrial capitalism can produce. And the demand, of course, matched the speed.
Oh, the demand was a tidal wave.
We talk about the latest iPhone dropping and people camping out. This was on another level. When sales began for the first Levittown in New York, March 1947, it wasn't just a line. It was a stampede.
A frenzy. The stories are legendary. Thousands of people, mostly veterans and their wives, lined up for miles.
And in the first 3 hours, they sold 1,400 houses.
1,400 contracts signed. That is almost 8 houses sold per minute. They couldn't write the contracts fast enough.
So this business model, this incredible speed, wasn't just about building. It allowed for rapid cost recovery. You build fast, you sell instantly, you get your cash back, and you pour it into the next plot of land.
It's an incredibly lucrative and scalable model. It's a money-printing machine.
And this brings us to the why. Why were people literally fighting to get in line? Sure, they needed homes, but they needed affordable homes, and Levittown was cheap.
Incredibly cheap. The first model, the basic Cape Cod, sold for $7,900.
$7,900. I mean, even adjusted for inflation, that is a steal. But the sticker price wasn't even the main attraction, was it?
No, the real magic was the monthly payment.
This is where the government enters the chat.
Big time. The Veterans Administration, the VA, and the Federal Housing Administration, the FHA. Levitt wasn't just selling a house. He was selling a financial product that the government had created.
The government guaranteed the mortgages for veterans under the GI Bill.
Which was the game changer. For the bank, it's a no-risk loan. If the veteran defaults, the government pays. So the banks were eager to lend.
And this meant zero down payment, right?
Often zero down.
Yeah.
Maybe $100. And the interest rates were rock bottom, like 4%. So you do the math, and you can be sure Levitt salesmen did the math for every single veteran who walked in the door.
Yeah, that.
The monthly mortgage payment for a brand new house in Levittown was about $56 a month.
$56.
And the rent for a cramped, run-down apartment in the Bronx or Queens at the time, it was often more than that.
That is the tipping point. That's the aha moment for the whole thing. It was literally cheaper to own a home than to rent one.
You were saving money every month by buying a house.
And you're not just saving money, you're building equity.
You're building wealth. Instead of burning money on rent, you are investing in an asset. That is the engine of the American middle class right there. That is how generational wealth is created from that one simple calculation.
So let's talk about what you actually got for that $7,900 and that $56 a month. Because if I hear mass-produced house built in a day, I'm picturing, a glorified shed.
All right, something that's going to fall down in 10 years.
But these were distinct. They had a specific look and feel. What was the house itself like?
Well, they were small by modern standards, for sure. The basic model was about 750 square feet.
That's a two-bedroom apartment, basically.
Pretty much. And there was no basement. That was a huge cost saver. Levitt pioneered the use of the concrete slab foundation with radiant heating.
So the heating coils were embedded right in the concrete floor.
Yep. Cheaper and faster than digging a basement and installing a furnace.
Yeah.
But it sat on its own land. That was key.
The little plot of America you could call your own.
A 60 by 100-foot lot. And the house was a simple Cape Cod style. But here was the other brilliant marketing move. It had an unfinished attic.
Ah, the expandable house.
Exactly. The marketing was all about the future. You buy this small house now, and as your family grows, you can finish the attic and add 2 more bedrooms upstairs.
So the house grows with you. It's not just a starter home. It's a forever home in the making.
That was the pitch. But let's look at what was inside the house when you bought it. Levitt knew that to sell the husband, he had to sell the price. To sell the wife, and the marketing was, let's be honest, heavily targeted at the wives.
Oh, completely. The ads were all about no more wash day blues.
Right. To sell the wife, he needed to offer modern convenience.
The appliances.
All included in the purchase price. A brand new General Electric stove and oven, a refrigerator, and the crown jewel.
The Bendix washing machine.
The automatic Bendix washing machine.
That's huge. In 1947, a washing machine was a serious luxury item. Most women were still using wringers or going to a laundromat, having it built in. That's like buying a condo today and getting a Tesla included in the garage.
It was an unbelievable selling point. It was turnkey living. You just bring your clothes, your furniture, and you are done. The American dream delivered, ready to use.
But there's one architectural detail I really want to drill down on because I think it speaks to the huge culture shift we mentioned earlier.
The porch.
The porch, or more accurately, the lack of one.
This is a subtle but really profound change in American life. Traditional homes, especially in cities and small towns, often had front porches.
Right. The porch was a transitional space. It was semi-public, semi-private. You sat there, you watched the street, you waved to your neighbors as they walked by.
It was the social hub of the block.
Levittown houses didn't have porches.
No, Levitt cut them. Partly for cost, of course. It's extra lumber, extra labor, extra time. But it also signaled a fundamental shift in focus.
From the front of the house to the back.
Exactly.
Oh.
He didn't give you a porch, but he emphasized the backyard, the patio. He put a big picture window in the front of the house, but the living space was oriented towards the rear.
The private space.
Right. The house turned its back on the street. The family unit turned inward. That big picture window facing front, you didn't open it to chat with a neighbor. You put your new television in front of it.
That really changes the social fabric, doesn't it? It's a physical manifestation of a cultural shift. You go from sitting on the porch, chatting with everyone on the block, to having a BBQ in the fenced backyard with just your family.
It redefined what privacy meant. It solidified the idea of the nuclear family as this self-contained, self-sufficient island.
You have your own washing machine, so you don't go to the laundromat and chat with other women.
You have your own yard, so your kids don't go to the public park as much.
You have your TV, so you don't go to the local movie theater.
Every one of those included amenities, while a convenience also severed a tie to the public sphere.
But despite that kind of architectural isolation, Levitt did build a community structure. It wasn't just a grid of houses plopped in a field.
Oh, absolutely not. He was a master marketer. He understood he wasn't just selling houses, he was selling a lifestyle, a complete package.
So they built the amenities into the town plan.
They did. They built community centers,
Mm.
huge swimming pools. They called them swimming pools, not public pools, which is a subtle class distinction. They built parks, baseball diamonds, designated land for schools and churches. It was all pre-planned.
So it was almost like a country club model for the blue-collar worker. You pay your dues, which is your mortgage, and you get access to the pool, the park, the whole shebang.
That psychological draw was unbelievably powerful. It told a returning veteran, you made it. You're not a poor city kid anymore. You are a suburbanite. You have a lawn to mow. Mowing the lawn became this, sacred ritual.
A symbol of having arrived.
Totally.
And this model was so wildly successful that it didn't just stay in New York. Levittown became a franchise.
They basically created a template and then copied and pasted it. They took the show on the road. The first one in New York from 47 to 51 was just the proof of concept.
The prototype.
Then came Levittown, Pennsylvania from 52 to 58.
And that one was even bigger than the first, right? Near Philadelphia.
Much bigger. And then Willingboro Township in New Jersey, which was originally just called Levittown, New Jersey. They had to change the name later.
And they even went international.
Levittown, Puerto Rico in 1963. Then they kept going. Bowie, Maryland in 64. Greenbrier, Virginia in 66. This project spanned decades, well into the 70s.
It's an empire built on 750 square foot boxes.
An empire built on the American dream.
So, okay. We have the miracle. We have the happy families, the washing machines, the swimming pools. The American dream, mass-produced and delivered on a flatbed truck.
That sounds perfect.
It sounds perfect, but, and there's always a massive but, when something in American history looks this perfect, we have to talk about the filter, the sorting mechanism.
The shadow over Levittown. And we need to be very, very clear here. This was not an accidental oversight. This wasn't, oh, we just forgot to market to everyone.
No.
This was a structural, legal, and violently enforced exclusion.
We're talking about race. We're talking about the fact that Levittown was for whites only.
Explicitly and intentionally for whites only. Levitt and Sons maintained what are called racial covenants.
Let's just unpack that term for a second. Racial covenant. It sounds like something from a dusty old scroll, but it was a very modern, very powerful legal weapon.
It was a clause that was written directly into the deed of the property,
Right.
the legal document that says you own the house and the land.
And what did it say?
Clause 25 of the original Levittown lease stated, and I'm paraphrasing slightly, that the property could not be used or occupied by any person other than members of the Caucasian race.
So it wasn't just that William Levitt wouldn't sell to you if you were black. It was that if you were black, you legally couldn't even live there, even if you were renting from a white owner who wanted to rent to you.
The only exception written into that clause was for domestic servants,
Wow.
which tells you everything you need to know about the social hierarchy they were building and enforcing. You could be there to serve, but not to live.
Now, here is where the host asks the obvious question part usually comes in, but I did the reading on this. It is so easy to just say, William Levitt was a racist. And by all accounts, his views were certainly racist. He's on record saying things like he had no personal prejudice, but that white people won't buy if black people live there.
He framed it as a business decision.
Exactly. He claimed he was just following the market. My job is to build houses and sell them.
But that is a complete deflection, because the market itself was being rigged by the government. And this is the part that usually gets left out of the high school history books. This wasn't just a private company's decision.
This is where the FHA comes back into the story.
This is the FHA's smoking gun. The Federal Housing Administration, the very same agency that was ensuring all these loans and making the whole thing possible.
The agency making the dream affordable.
Yes, they had an official underwriting manual. It was the Bible for developers and lenders. And in that manual, they explicitly warned against the infiltration of inharmonious racial groups.
Inharmonious racial groups. That is the United States government's language.
That is the official policy of the federal government. Their official stance was that if a neighborhood integrated, property values would drop. They called it a risk factor,
So they were redlining on a national scale.
a national policy-driven scale. Therefore, to protect the government's investment, to make a neighborhood safe for a federally backed loan, segregation was not just encouraged, it was required.
So if William Levitt wanted the FHA guarantee, which he absolutely needed to sell these houses with zero down payment, he had to segregate.
He had to. It was a vicious loop. The FHA demanded segregation to insure the loan. The builder enforced segregation to get the insurance. The white veteran got the cheap government-backed loan. The black veteran, who fought in the same war, was eligible for the same GI Bill.
He was completely locked out.
Completely. And it's not just about not getting a nice new house with a washing machine. It's about wealth. It's about economics.
Yeah.
We said earlier that buying these houses was cheaper than renting. That means, for decades, white families were stacking up equity. They were building a nest egg that would pay for their kids' college, for their retirement, that they would pass on to the next generation.
While black families were stuck renting in the city, building zero equity, often in neighborhoods that were being systematically disinvested in.
And that wealth gap, the difference between the family that was allowed to buy in Levittown in 1950 and the family that was denied, it doesn't just disappear. It compounds over and over across generations. That is the structural inequality we are still living with today.
There was a legal loophole, though, wasn't there? William Levitt refused to sell to people of color, but the covenants didn't necessarily stop a resale legally later on.
That's right. After a 1948 Supreme Court case, Shelley v. Kramer, these racial covenants were ruled to be unenforceable in court. But that didn't stop developers from putting them in, and it didn't stop the social pressure. The initial barrier was still absolute. But yes, the resale market was the only way in.
And that loophole gets tested. In 1957, the unwritten and written rule of Levittown, Pennsylvania, got tested by a family named Myers.
The Myers family case. This is where the story turns. This is where the bureaucratic violence of the FHA manual turns into actual physical violence on a suburban street.
Let's set the scene. It's Levittown, Pennsylvania, 1957, a nice, quiet, curving street. Deep Green Lane.
43, Deep Green Lane.
And here comes William Myers and his family. And honestly, if you were trying to cast the perfect neighbor for Levittown, it was him.
He was the absolute model of the person they claimed to be building these towns for.
A World War II Army veteran.
Check. College degree in engineering. A good job as a refrigeration engineer.
His wife, Daisy, was a school teacher. They had 3 young children. I mean, they were the model American family by every single metric.
Every metric but one. They were black.
And because Levitt wouldn't sell to them directly, they found that loophole you mentioned. They bought the house from the original owner, a resale.
And the owner who sold it to them was a Jewish man, a leftist, a progressive, who deliberately sold to them because he wanted to break the color barrier and integrate the neighborhood.
So the Myers family moves in August 1957. It's supposed to be the happy ending to their story, the culmination of the American dream they were promised. They start unpacking the boxes. What happens?
All hell breaks loose. And I don't mean a few dirty looks or a nasty comment. I mean a siege, a full-blown violent siege.
The word spreads like wildfire, right? The mailman finds out, tells a neighbor.
Exactly. Within hours, a crowd gathers outside the house. Then that crowd turns into a mob. On the first night, hundreds of people swarmed the property.
I read about the rocks. The first night, stones smashed through their brand new picture window, that same picture window that was supposed to be the symbol of suburban bliss and transparency.
It was shattered. The police were called, but their reaction was, let's just say, passive at best. There are numerous reports of officers just standing by, some even joking with the mob, while this family was cowering inside their new home.
But it didn't stop after one night. This is the part that is so haunting. The sheer stamina of the hatred. They got organized. They formed a committee.
The Levittown Betterment Committee.
The Betterment Committee. That is just chillingly ironic.
Their specific, stated goal was to harass the Myers family until they left, to make their lives so miserable that they would sell the house and move out.
And they utilized psychological warfare. It wasn't just shouting and throwing rocks. They took over a house next door or nearby.
Yes, a neighbor offered up their home to be the headquarters for the harassment.
The Confederate house.
They called it the Confederate house. In Pennsylvania, remember, this is not the Deep South. They flew a giant Confederate flag from the roof. But the detail that is truly visceral, that gets under your skin, is a sound.
The record player.
They set up heavy audio equipment, loudspeakers, and pointed them right at the Myers' bedroom windows.
And what did they play?
They blasted the song Dixie on a loop 24 hours a day and night. Just imagine trying to put your 3 young children to sleep while a mob of 500 people is screaming racial slurs outside your window and Dixie is blaring through the walls.
It's terrorism, plain and simple. It's domestic terrorism in the so-called peaceful suburbs.
It is, and it revealed the incredibly ugly underbelly of that community spirit we talked about. The same neighbors who organized the carpool and the Little League were the ones organizing the mob.
But, and this is so important to the story, the Myers didn't just pack up and leave immediately, and they weren't entirely alone.
No, they weren't. And this is the glimmer of hope, or at least resilience in the story. A counter-protest, a resistance formed against the mob.
A different kind of community spirit.
Yes. Groups like the Quakers, the American Jewish Congress, and the local William Penn Center stepped in immediately.
But what could they actually do against a violent mob of hundreds?
They used their bodies. They organized a 247-citizen patrol. They formed a human chain around the house. They just stood there on the lawn as a buffer.
That image is so powerful. A line of Quakers, standing in silence, just absorbing the hate, acting as a human shield between the house and the screaming mob.
And they were individual acts of incredible bravery and kindness. White neighbors who defied the mob, who crossed the invisible picket line to come over and sit with Daisy Myers, who helped her clean up the broken glass.
I read that some white couples volunteered to babysit the Myers children.
They did, just to give the parents a break, to show them they weren't completely surrounded by enemies. It really highlights the divide, doesn't it?
It does. You have people blasting Dixie and throwing rocks, and on the same street you have people coming over to sweep up the glass and watch the kids. It was a civil war played out on a single patch of Kentucky bluegrass.
And the struggle gained national attention. It became a huge story. Martin Luther King Jr. met with the family and wrote to them, offering his support. It became a symbol. Levittown wasn't just a housing project anymore. It was a battleground for the soul of the nation.
So how did it end? Did the mob win? Were they forced out?
In a way, no. The Myers family stayed. They endured the harassment, the flag, the music, the threats for 4 years.
4 years. That is an incredible, almost unimaginable level of resilience. I don't know if I could last 4 days under that kind of constant, unrelenting pressure.
They eventually did move, but, and this is the crucial part of the story, it wasn't because they were forced out by the mob.
Right.
William got a job promotion in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. They moved for his career. They left on their own terms.
That feels like a victory. A hard-won, exhausting victory, but a victory nonetheless.
It absolutely was. And their struggle wasn't in vain. The visibility of the raw racism in Levittown, the ugliness of it being broadcast to the entire nation, it put a crack in the facade of the happy, homogeneous suburb.
It showed what was holding it all together.
Exactly. And it helped build the political will for new legislation. It was one of the many, many struggles that helped lead to the eventual passage of the Fair Housing Act in 1968, which finally outlawed racial discrimination in housing.
So the Myers family, just by trying to live their lives, by refusing to be intimidated, helped change the law for everyone.
They exposed the lie. They exposed the fact that the peaceful suburbs were maintained by violence and the threat of violence.
So let's zoom out. We have covered a ton of ground here. We got the assembly line houses, the cheap mortgages, the swimming pools, and the mobs with their record players. When we look back at Levittown today, what is the final verdict? What's the legacy?
It's so complicated, isn't it? It's a true duality. You cannot deny the innovation. Levittown was a genuine feat of mass production that housed thousands and thousands of veterans for a fraction of the cost.
It created the modern suburb. It made the dream of homeownership a reality for a huge segment of the working class for the first time.
It absolutely did. It proved that the working class could own property, could build equity, could have that patch of grass.
But it also proved how ruthlessly effective that same system could be at exclusion.
Exactly. That progress came at a steep, steep social cost. It solidified segregation not as a leftover of the past, but as a brand new, modern, government-backed feature of the future.
It used the power of the federal government to create these white enclaves that locked black families out of that wealth-building machine for decades.
And we are still undoing that damage. The neighborhoods don't just magically integrate the day the law changes. The wealth gap doesn't just disappear.
No. The patterns that were established in 1947 in that potato field are still visible in the demographics and the wealth distribution of our suburbs today.
The ghost of that machine is still with us.
It's a lot to process. We really did start with white picket fences and end with the Fair Housing Act.
That's history for you. It's rarely just one thing. It's usually a miracle and a tragedy all wrapped up in the same package.
Before we go, we always like to leave you with something to chew on, a little food for thought to take with you on your commute or while you're doing the dishes.
We talked a lot about efficiency today. The 27 steps the house built in 12 minutes, the removal of the porch to save time and money.
Right. Efficiency is the American god. We love it. Faster, cheaper, better. It's our default mode.
Go. But the provocative thought is this. When we design systems for maximum speed and minimum cost, like that 27-step house, who or what gets left out of the blueprint? Efficiency almost always requires standardization. And standardization, by its very nature, usually rejects anything or anyone that is considered different or inharmonious.
It smooths out the inconvenient parts.
It sands them down. So the question is, what is the hidden cost of our obsession with efficiency? Who pays the price for that speed?
And think about that physical structure again, the porch versus the patio.
Yes. Next time you drive or walk through a neighborhood, any neighborhood, look at the architecture. Is it built to face the street? Does it have spaces that invite interaction? Or is it built to turn inward, to create a fortress of privacy?
Did we build communities, or did we just build clusters of beautiful, comfortable isolation?
And what did we lose as a society when we traded the front porch for the backyard fence? What conversations never happened?
That is definitely going to keep me thinking next time I'm driving home. I might even wave to my neighbor.
You should. You never know.
Thank you for listening to this deep dive into Levittown. If you enjoyed this, please share it with a friend. We'll catch you on the next one.